From the studios of the Pemberton Township Board of Education's Channel 14, it's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head of the Food Services Department at Pemberton Township High School and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello again. Welcome to What's Cooking. What's cooking today is a Salisbury steak. If you're used to eating a plain old hamburger, pay attention today and you're going to learn how to spice up your entrees. What we're going to do is take some ground beef and we're going to add some pepper and onion and a little bit of shallot to it, and we're going to season it up and make a real nice mushroom gravy to go with it. So instead of maybe just a plain chopped steak, you can make up a Salisbury steak, and it's really quite tasty and it's different, and it doesn't take all the time that a meatloaf takes. So it's an individual kind of thing that we can prepare, and it's most of the foods that we show you, before we get to the stage where we cook them, they can be frozen. This dish can be set up to the day before, and then it can be cooked fresh the day you're going to serve it. It can also be cooked and put in its own gravy and frozen and microwaved later. So this is another one of those dishes that is easy to prepare, and if you're cooking for only one or two, you can make the amount we're showing you today and have another one left over. We're going to start with a container that I'm going to mix in, and I've got a small packet of ground beef. The meat that you use is what you can change any way you want. We're using beef today. Pork is fine. It works out really well. Even the ground turkey lends itself very well for what we're going to do today. So you would follow the same procedures that we're showing you now. Right here I have some breadcrumbs, and these are frozen bread that has been ground up, and we're going to put that in there. And I'm doing it like this so you can see what I've got. I'm putting in approximately half of the amount of meat. I'm adding that much breadcrumb to it. So just do it by eye like that. There's that much meat, you put half that amount in crumbs. Do it by volume, you won't have any problem. The reason that we're adding the breadcrumb to it is to make it more tender. If you were to make this without the breadcrumb, it will come up fine, it will cook and look nice. However, it will shrink more, and it will also be very tough. So that's the reason for the breadcrumb. Not that we're that cheap that we want to stretch it along. We want it to make it more tender and keep its nice size. All right, so now we're going to add some onion to that, and we're going to cut the top and bottom off of the onion, and we're going to split that in half, because I told you at the top of the program that this is a dish that cooks very quickly, so we don't want to spend a whole lot of time. There's our half of onion, and we're going to cut maybe halfway through the onion, but I'm cutting very, very close each slice together. And you've watched the program before, so you know we never cut towards ourselves. There we go, and we'll do that one right there. And now I've got that onion all cut real thin slices, see them? But they're all going to stay stuck together. Now we're going to cut them real close, going the other way. And just take your time when you're practicing this and go slow. And if you don't cut every time, that's fine. I'd rather have you just take your time and get them nice and small. That's the whole trick to this, is that we get all the vegetables cut up real fine. All right? And we're going to put that in there. The reason we want to cut these fine is because this isn't a meatloaf. So what we're going to do is patty these out, and we want them to cook. We want all our vegetables done the same time our meat's done. We cut the pepper in half, pop the core right out, pull some of the webbing out, shake the seeds out. All right? And then they're cleaned up and ready. And then what I do with the pepper I want to make sure that the knife is nice and sharp. So if you're learning to use a steel at home, put the steel on the board like this. Even though this is different than what you've seen, this is very safe. Put the steel on the board and take your knife and act like you're trying to cut a very thin slice off of that steel. You go from one end to the other, and that will bring the edge right back. And if you overshoot the steel, all you're going to hit is the board, and that's fine. All right. And that's ready. Then we take our pepper, and we're going to lay the pepper down with the shiny side down, and we're going to very slowly cut them real thin into strips. Nice and thin. And at this point, you can use any kind of pepper. If you like a sweet pepper or a red pepper, or you want to add hot peppers to it, you can really spice this up just by changing a few of the ingredients. So we've got that. All right. Now we'll cut the whole half a pepper and add it to it. Now this pepper had 2 colors to it, so I lucked out today. That way I'll get a little variety in the color. Now I would normally cut a whole pile of pepper like that, but if you're just watching us because you want to learn, split that in half and you have 2 smaller stacks to cut, and then just rock the knife and just move it slowly over the pepper. And before you know it, you'll be zipping right along. So we want to cut nice and thin. Let me move that over and finish cutting up the last of that. Then we're going to lay that in a line one more time because I do want these cut kind of small. Just like that. All right, and now that is going to be put into our meat mixture. There we go. And now we're going to take and put a little bit of shallot in there. And a shallot you treat the same as an onion. It's kind of a cross between a garlic and an onion, but treat it just like an onion. It's got a different kind of a taste to it, and they're really good to try. We told you on a previous program to buy them, and I'm showing you where you can use them once you buy a few of them. They really have quite a different flavor, and we do them the same way, only smaller. So we just cut them into strips like that, and then we can turn them sideways. And shallots are probably what most professional chefs use a Cuisinart for, or one of the mechanical machines. They use them for cutting up shallots and garlic real small. So when you've had these dishes out, you wonder what that taste is that you couldn't identify because it was nothing you could see. It was probably a shallot, and it was cut very, very small. But of course, they're cutting pints of them at a time, and here we are just cutting up one. So it's good practice for us at home to learn how to use that French knife. Get them nice and small, and in that goes. So by now, the meat mixture should look like that in the bowl. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of water to the crumb side, just right over the crumbs, just a little bit. And then we're going to season this with some black pepper. And again, when you look into this, you want to season the entire batch. Go right across the meat and right across the breadcrumb. You're going to season all of it. That's how you will learn to judge when you're seasoning something, is to go right across the whole top of it. And now some salt. There we go, just like that. And then a little bit of garlic powder, because I can get that to mix right into this mixture really, really good. Just like that. And then we're going to put in 1 egg and mix it. And I'm going to, while I mix this, I'm going to watch the consistency of this, provided that the breadcrumbs were fresh crumbs. If you use crumbs that were from stale bread, what you would want to do is to soak them a little more, put a little more water in them. And then we're just smashing them right together. And that's seasoned up really well, and that's what we want. A real colorful mix is what we want. And there you are. Now, once you have that ready, push it all together. Should have a real nice smell to it. like this does. And it should be very colorful. You want it, once you have it mixed like that, the crumbs, you probably won't even notice them in there. Now I'm going to cook these so that we can cook them real quick. Get my pan spray. We just put them right into a sprayed pan. And their shape is usually oval, so you take that out and we oval that up, just like that, and pat them flat. So it's an oval shaped patty. All right, we want to just make sure that we pat all the little creases out of it, and then that goes into our pan. We'll do 2 of these. And I'm using the spoon as a measure for you at home, so if you get 1 spoonful, you'll make them all the same size. And the reason we want them all the same size is if you were going to cook this entire batch all at one time on a cookie sheet, because they're all the same size, they're going to cook the same amount of time. So there, we've got that oval shaped, and you'll get the hang of it. You'll feel them on your hand that they're all the same size. And now we're going to go right to the oven with these and bake them off. And we're going to put them in a 350-degree convection oven, and the little patties like that won't take but about 3 to 4 minutes to brown right up. So I've got a little bit of the mix left. We're going to come back, I'll clean up my mess and show you how to make some sauce and hors d'oeuvres. So while I'm getting ready with that, I'd like you folks at home to watch this.
And fellow mountain goats, this year's recipient of the treasured Black Horn Award, Richard Lynch. Come on up here, Dick.
What are you doing this weekend that's so important you can't take a little time to test your home for radon? After all, it is the 2nd leading cause of lung cancer, and a radon test kit is inexpensive. You could pick one up on your way to the lodge.
Welcome back. We've put our Salisburys in the oven, and they're beginning to brown up very nicely. We're going to just let them go for a little bit. We're going to set up for an hors d'oeuvre. I mean, you're going through all this work in the kitchen. Why not set up for 2 meals? And what we're going to do is, these are a little appetizer, and an hors d'oeuvre is nothing more than a tiny tidbit served on a base and eaten with the fingers. It's got such a nice definition to it. And what we're going to make are stuffed mushrooms. Now, most people don't try stuffed mushrooms out because most places have mushrooms that are stuffed with seafood, and a lot of us are reluctant to try seafood. Having said all of that, we are going to stuff our mushrooms with our Salisbury steak filling. Now, what I have here is a bucket of water and some mushrooms, and I'm going to push the mushrooms into the bucket of water. Then we're going to take the mushrooms, and boy, that's a perfect view. You want to have a lot more water than you have mushrooms. Now I'm going to grab myself a little pie pan here. Once you've got the mushrooms in the cold water, you're going to go like this and just bounce those mushrooms up and down against one another into that cold water. Now, if you buy the mushrooms, take them home, they go in a paper bag, and just throw them in the refrigerator. Don't wash them till you're ready to use them. But when you're ready to use them, you do this. And by plunging these up and down in the water, any of the solids are going to fall off and go to the bottom. Any of the sand or any of the other good things that mushrooms are grown in. I don't want to turn you off of a mushroom here. And you'll see they'll lighten up in their color, and they'll clean right up. And then we're going to just shake them out and throw them right there. Just bounce them around, shake them off. Bounce them around and shake them off. Sounds like some kind of exercise. And 3 more, here we go. There we go. And you'll see that what's floating in the water, you're kind of glad that you did not eat the mushrooms the way you got them. So that is the easiest way to clean up your mushrooms and have them all ready. Now you've got the mushrooms. I want you to pick through the mushrooms, pick the biggest, flattest, nicest looking ones that are all kind of the same size. That's not too complicated. So what we want to do is just get mushrooms that are very similar in size. and we're just going to snap the bottoms off them, and it makes that nice, neat little cup there. There we go. And we're going to just snap a couple of them off like that. All I'm doing is holding the mushroom, snapping that right off. Snap the stem right out of it. All right. And we'll have a few to fill, just like that. And that makes a nice cup inside to fill the mushroom. And then we take our filling. Let me move these over here. Move this out of the way, right there. And we take a flat pan, spray that, and all we're going to do is take the cap of the mushroom and push in some of the filling into the mushroom, and then just mound it over the top of the mushroom, just like that. Pat that right down. All right, and that's what you want to do with them, and put them right in there. So if you've made the Salisbury steaks already, and you've got some of this filling left over, that's why pork is always so nice, or even sausage. You just take a sausage and split the casing of the raw sausage and stick them right in there. But if you've already made this filling, you can take now and spice it up a little more if you want, and then put them right in that mushroom like that. Or after they're filled like this, you can season the top of them a little bit more if you want. You can dust them with a little pepper and Parmesan cheese if you'd like. Whatever you want to do to them at this point to add your own spice or flavor to it, it's going to add a distinctive flavor to them. So there we go. This is a great way to get somebody to try mushrooms, or even to try a Salisbury steak. If they like this, they're going to really enjoy your dinner. So there we are. We have that, and they're all set up and ready to go. And at the break, when I cleaned up, I said, I'm going to put some of these in there right now, and I did. And we're going to go over to the oven and pull them right out for you to see how they look. So that means we don't want these till later. Put them right there. And we're going to pull one of these out. Now these have probably cooked all of maybe 6 or 7 minutes. So I want you just to take a look at how they cook very quickly. The meat's cooked, and by the time the meat is cooked, the mushroom is cooked. So we've already got hors d'oeuvres from what we showed you today. And we'll be putting them up for you to see at the end of the program. Now we've taken a nice heavy sauce pot. We've done this before. Take your thickest pot that you have, put a fire under it, and we're going to make some sauce for our Salisburys. I'm going to get a spoon out and some butter into the bottom of the pot. And that's maybe a tablespoon of butter. And I had the fire under the pot to warm it up. Once you're ready, make sure you've got your flour nearby and the water. And today I'm going to use a little bit of beef base while that's melting nice and slow. And we're also going to take a couple more of our washed mushrooms, and they are going to go in as our garnish. Got one running away here. There we go. As our garnish. So we take the mushrooms now, and these we're going to cut nice and thin. And they're going to go in to make our regular sauce a mushroom sauce. And I didn't put them in the Salisbury itself because they won't cook really well in there. And they don't look really appetizing when there's a chunk of them shriveled up inside. So it's nice to keep them separate like this. Now we have our pot, our butter's melted. I'm going to turn up the fire just a little bit, and we're going to put the mushrooms right in there. Okay, you can hear them beginning to cook. And we're going to stir them around. Now the reason that we do this, instead of taking the sauce and dumping the mushrooms in afterwards, is we're going to give the mushroom a sautéed flavor. because the temperature of the butter is going to be much higher than the temperature of just the gravy would be. That gives the mushroom a much better flavor. And we can also brown up the mushroom a little bit. So as we cook the mushroom, the water from the mushroom is going to come out. It's not going to thin up our sauce at all. There we go. And then we're going to just take them. I'll put my fire up now so I can work a little. There we go. What's going to happen now is we're going to dust these lightly with the flour. All I want to do is absorb any of the fat that's in there. And we've told you in the past when we're cooking that sometimes we don't like to brown that. Well, today we want to brown this up. If this browns up, that's just perfectly fine. So that goes in there like that. All right, now the mushrooms are all coated. And we're going to continue just to cook them, stir them around so that we fry the flour. We want to actually cook that flour on the outside of those mushrooms. There we go. So what I'm doing is pushing them around in the pot and laying them flat on the bottom so that they will cook. There we go. And then we're going to season that just a little bit. A little black pepper can go right across the top of them. I like to season them first instead of later because it's much easier once I have this, when I add the liquids to this, that I can take this afterwards and try to put the spice in. It doesn't always dissolve well. The thing that we'll add later will be this little bit of parsley. Okay, so that's browned up nice. I'm going to put what would probably be equivalent to 2 bouillon cubes in there on the end of my spoon. I'm stirring that around, and now I'm stirring in some water. And once I have the water in there, I can go to the whip now and stir that right in. And all of the flour that was on the outside of the mushrooms is now going to begin to absorb the liquid. There we go. The color will change like it just has. And that will come to a boil. And then we're going to add some of the parsley flakes to that. So that will give us a color contrast right on our sauce. Now, stir this real good. At first, it will be very thin, like this is right now. That will be thin. However, what we made in the bottom of this pot is called a roux. The thickener is the flour and the butter that we put in at first. And as this reaches the boiling point, it's going to absorb our bouillon cube and the water, and it's going to thicken right up. So, there we go. So that's what we're after, a sauce that looks like that in the beginning. And now before this thickens up, I want to make sure that we have the seasoning correct on that. It's got a nice beefy flavor to it, but I'd like to put a little more pepper in there. There we go. And make sure. Now, when you're making a sauce, all you have to worry about with the pot is the bottom. Now, this is already beginning to change its consistency, and that's what we want. There we go. And that's the reason for the nice heavy pot, is so that as this cooks from the bottom, the butter and the flour does not get a chance to scorch or burn. There we go. So our sauce is going to come to a boil. It's already beginning to pick up a nice shine. I'm going to go over because I can smell from the oven that these Salisbury steaks are done, and they smell really, really good. So let me get a plate over here and we'll get this out of the way. There we go. Take them right over to here and set that down. And we'll need another one for you. All right, what has happened to these, as I told you, they stayed their size pretty nice, and any fat that was in here, if you notice on the bottom of the pan, right here, it's all run off of the steak. I'll tip that and you can see it'll all be a golden colored fat in the side of the pan. And that, you just tip the pan like that and you can pick that steak right out of there. And just by cooking it, you have removed a lot of the fat from that. So we'll put a pair of them on the plate. So that, by adding the crumb, it kept its size, and you can see that they're got a nice color. We can see the green pepper in there. Now this sauce is just coming to a boil. There we are. We give that a stir, and we're going to put some of that over top of them. And some of the mushrooms here, I want to lift them off of our plate now. There we go. Now that's what they look like as an appetizer. Remember, these were the mushrooms. And we stuffed them with the filling. So we have that all set. And now I want to grab a ladle here, and there we go. Now that gravy is working out really nice. We're going to fish some of the mushrooms out of here. There we go. And we'll make sure they end up right in the center. And again, you can take out the mushrooms if you care to, but I like to leave them in. That makes the sauce really nice. And we just kind of float them right, there we go. Put the sauce on, let the mushrooms go to the top so that they will float the Salisbury steak itself right in its own juice. So whether you're going to try them as an entree or you want to make them up as an appetizer, the Salisbury steak mixture lends itself well whether you're going to use it as an appetizer or an entree. So next time you try one of our Salisbury steaks, if you're not brave enough to go for the dinner, make it the little appetizer. Thank you for watching.